All right, thanks everyone for coming. This is Using Tech for Housing Justice as part of Boulder Startup Week 2021. Our organization is Bedrooms Are for People. I'm Eric Budd, and with Chelsea Castellano. This is part of the community track, and we wanted to thank the sponsors of Boulder Startup Week this year. That includes University of Colorado Boulder, Stream, Gary Community Investments, Techstars, Technical Integrity, Revent, and Name.com. All right, take it away.
So we are part of the Bedrooms Are for People campaign. We are trying to expand access to housing by reforming our city's discriminatory and exclusionary housing laws. And while we're just on this lovely slide with our logo, I just wanted to give a really big shout out to Devin Law, who is attending this presentation right now, who made our amazing logo and brand. And we're just so excited to share to share this, because this is on everything we do. See? Yeah, just huge talent here. And I am Chelsea Castellano. I am a part of this campaign and a co-lead on this campaign because I'm really passionate about social justice issues, specifically around housing and making our community just more affordable and inclusive, and overturning laws that prevent people from living their best lives. And yeah, so really happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Eric Budd. I'm the other co-lead on the campaign. I'm really interested in housing justice more generally, climate justice, and making Boulder more inclusive.
So why are we here today? We saw a problem that needed to be solved. In most of Boulder, it is illegal for more than 3 unrelated people to live together. It doesn't matter how big the home is, how old or young the residents are, or even if the home is owner occupied.
Yeah, and here's a map of Boulder. So what you can see is in the dark shaded areas, those are places that no more than 3 unrelated people are allowed to live together. And then you also see the light shaded places where actually up to 4 unrelated people can live together. But conveniently, those areas don't have any housing.
So why is this a problem? There are many reasons why this is a problem, but to name a few, liberty and justice for all. We believe that freedom of personal choice is something that the government shouldn't prevent, and choosing who you get to live with is a choice. Right now, our city government is saying that choice from being possible, or at least legal. Affordability, of course, sharing housing makes housing more affordable, and in a city that purports to have a housing crisis, this law just makes it even harder. Exclusionary zoning, so these laws were really born out of several policies, and the results of that are pretty clear. And also that 30 is the new 20. People are settling down later in life and don't necessarily want to, get married, have kids straight out of high school, college, and but they still want to be able to live in Boulder and share community in their housing situations.
Yeah, and also Boulder values. Like this place is one that a lot of people consider progressive, so we should have laws that don't oppress and punish people unfairly. Fair housing laws. Fair housing laws essentially say that people should be allowed to occupy a home and really shouldn't be discriminated against. Seniors and retirees. As people get older, people more often need live-in help or want to live in community for support. Environment. Many of our occupancy limits essentially restrict who can live in a house, and so we need more housing. We need to spend more resources to house people. And then traffic and pollution. People should be able to live close to their jobs and how they recreate and where they need to go to the store and other sorts of things. And these laws really prevent that.
But it doesn't have to be this way. Boulder's archaic and oppressive occupancy law is truly the elephant in the room when it comes to creating more affordable and sustainable housing. And it's also a barrier to just expanding access to housing. And we have a solution.
Yeah, and so our solution was to change the law, and our way to do that is to put something on the ballot to make that happen. And so people will actually vote on this measure, and what they'll be voting on is exactly what is stated here. So I'll read it just for clarity. So, shall the City of Boulder expand access to housing by allowing all housing units to be occupied by a number of people equal to the number of legal bedrooms, plus one additional person per home, provided that relevant health and safety codes are met?
So put simply, our initiative would make it so that 4 unrelated people would be able to live together in a 3-bedroom house, 5 unrelated people in a 4-bedroom house. So instead of arbitrary limit like we currently have of 3, we're really trying to tie the limits to rational, like a rational basis of argument, just that the size of the home should be able to accommodate a certain level. So yeah.
So how do we take this idea, this proposal that we have, and make it into law? So we started our campaign a little over a year ago, and as of this week, we have gotten enough signatures to qualify for the 2021 ballot. So we want to tell you a bit about how that happened.
And I will note here that this says March 2021. It's supposed to say March 2020, but it, this past month has felt very long, or these past few months. So anyway, so in March 2020, on March 9th, we submitted our petition to the city to be able to start collecting signatures. There's a bit of a review process. And on March 27th, the city did approve our petition, and they said, go out, collect signatures. But unfortunately, 3 days before that, the world shut down, and we started to realize that we were, in fact, in a global pandemic. So we were staying at home. We took our lovely in-person meetings and started meeting on Zoom. Our small core team of people really started out with about 10 people starting this initiative, and we were worried. How are we going to achieve this momentous change? And we needed to do so by collecting signatures. And how are we going to do that when we couldn't house? So there was a time where we were concerned.
Yeah, and so how do you collect signatures during a pandemic? We didn't know. We had never done this before. And so, as you can see in this picture here, we had like buckets of pens, a clean pile and a dirty pile. Everyone was wearing masks. People used hand sanitizer and also had tissues to kind of wash your hands off after you've signed their petition. And we really started out in parks because we were told, it's safer if you go outside and be outside instead of being inside during this pandemic. And we really learned that. Then we also started going to like stores because everyone was staying at home and they needed to go to the store. It was a place that was actually pretty consistent to get signatures. And so over time, we learned these protocols, taught them to our volunteers, and we collected a lot of signatures that way.
And but we did recognize, so we started collecting signatures the day the stay-at-home order lifted. And at that time, we didn't know a lot about the virus, and there were a lot of people that still were not comfortable leaving their houses, who weren't going to the parks, who weren't even going to the grocery stores, but were doing delivery services. And that gave us the idea that, hey, if you can deliver a hamburger to someone's house, you surely can deliver a petition to someone's house. We created an initiative on demand where people could order their petition, and within a few days, we would coordinate with them via text, email, to confirm a window of time. And then once confirmed, a friendly volunteer in a mask would knock on that person's door and get their signature. And, you know, our tagline was, boom, democracy delivered. So yeah, it was really innovative, and it was really the one of the first ways that we started to use technology in our campaign.
And yeah, this program was really successful, and we planted a seed to get more information from our supporters. You know, we actually have contact information, which is something that, like most people who sign petitions, you don't really know who they are. And that's been a way that we started connecting with more people that supported our campaign, and really has launched us into this year, where we're doing much more of that, which we'll be talking about a bit later in the presentation.
So after a grueling 3 months in the heat of the parking lots, we did finally submit our 7,800 signatures, which was almost double the number of signatures that the city of Boulder told us that we needed in order to be placed on the 2020 ballot.
So it turns out we have a pretty conservative city council here that actually opposes expanding access to housing. And they wanted to prevent the community from voting on our measure. So what they did was they found some problems with their election law and the guidelines that they gave us, and they retroactively changed their interpretation of the deadlines to a date that had already passed several months prior.
So this effectively meant that they prevented access to the ballot for us specifically, and we took all of the campaign funds that we had and put that towards legal representation. And in a time of a city budgetary crisis, imagine, you know, no one going to the restaurants or shops, so the sales taxes were basically nothing. The city decided that it was worth it to spend $50,000 of your taxpayer money to fight us in court, instead of keeping their word and placing us on the ballot based on the guidelines that they had provided to us. And in our court case, the judge acknowledged that the city had, you know, really screwed up, but did not have a legal mechanism to force them to place us on the ballot. We did appeal to the Colorado Supreme Court, and they did take up our case, but then decided not to make a verdict, which essentially meant that we were not going to be on the 2020 ballot.
So what did we do? Like any good activists, we marched in the streets. Hundreds of people came out for our march that changed zoning laws, which, if you can imagine that, that's pretty unheard of. But we weren't done fighting. We wanted to show the community how much support that our measure had, and we got support from young people, old people, all over the place, and that really helped propel us into next year.
So 2021, here we go again. We have to start over. But this year, a choice. We had a choice between collecting physical signatures again in the streets of along the city, or to use the world's first online signature collection system developed for ballot measures. And we went with...
Yeah, it's called Boulder Direct Democracy Online. And yeah, this is the first municipal electronic petition system. All others pretty much use paper. And so we chose this because we had to make this decision in January during the peak of the pandemic, which really gave us some pause. And we believed that we could strengthen our movement and get on the ballot through the use of great digital organizing.
So we thought we would have a little here, but you know, to demonstrate what the situation was, because signing a paper petition takes people about 30 seconds. And when we first started seeing this new quote unquote world-renowned system, we recognized that there were some challenges that made it harder for people to finish signing. And we want to share that experience with you here and now. So go to the next slide, just to give you a sense of what we were working with. We'd love for everyone here to try to be able to finish signing, or at least get to a place where you could finish in 2 minutes, because that's what people are really willing to give their time in terms of signing a petition. So there's a QR code here. You could flash your phone at it to get to the site. You could, the link is also in the chat, or you could type it in based on the link we put on the slide. And we are starting the clock.
So hopefully you all are trying this out, and while you're doing that, I'm going to continue and demonstrate. So if you use the QR code of the link, that takes you to this the city's online petition site. So you can see this is official. This is our measure, the Veterans Are for People Act. So here is the actual ballot question that we talked about earlier. Down here is the actual code changes, the changes to the law that would be made if our measure passed. These are the committee members that are sponsoring our campaign, meaning we need 5 of them from the city of Boulder. And then, so let's try to endorse this petition. So the first thing you see is log in to begin endorsing. It's like, okay, well, I'll type in my name. And then also it says year of birth. Okay, I know that. Oh, then it says voter ID number. Okay. Well, go visit govotecolorado.gov, find my registration to find your voter ID. Okay, I guess I can do that. Okay, so register a vote. Okay, I've already registered. Oh, find my voter registration. Okay. All right. So let's see, I guess my name again, and my zip code, and then my birthday. Not a robot. And search. So what we see here is like a bunch of information. Yeah, my address, whatever. Oh, so there's my voter ID. Okay, I guess I need that. Cool, so I'll go back here. If I did this all right, I'll put that in here and then continue on. And so that's just a little bit of a demonstration of what it takes. It's part of the challenge is once you get here, a number of people have problems with spelling their name incorrectly or special characters in their name that causes them to fail. 60% or more people, they don't have a phone number on their voter registration, so we had to figure out how to help them out. A bunch of people had to update their voter address, and if they had to make any updates to their voter registration, basically it doesn't say here that it's going to take 2 to 4 days for those updates to process. So what does that mean? So let's go back here.
So it turns out that, it's really not great. Eric had all his information in his voter profile with the Colorado Secretary of State. So that, that was an easy looking process, but most of the time, more than half of the people don't have their phone number associated with their voter record. So they get an error message and they have to go into the Colorado Secretary of State system. And that's a multiple step process to update that. And then they have to wait time. And then in order to be able to finish signing, or they get a voter record not found. Maybe they didn't copy in the right voter ID. Maybe they live in an enclave of, outside of the city. So they're not going to be found as a city resident, even though they thought they lived in the, or maybe they, oh, here's a good one. If hyphenated name, oftentimes, it's slightly different in the case, and you have to put in your name exactly as it is in the voter database, not as you know your name to be. So if you don't put that information exactly accurately according to the voter database, they're not going to find your record, and they will not tell you why. It's just voter record not found. No explanation. And so people were really facing left and right. In the first week, 501 people attempted to sign our petition, and 122 people successfully signed. That's a 38% success. And we just knew that based on the amount of time that we had, we were not going to be able to succeed in getting the number of signatures we needed at that failure rate. And so we needed to make some changes in order to make the system better, in order to make people have a better experience and be able to adjust our systems to support people getting through the city's process.
So we knew that sending people directly to the city's website was not going to work. And we wanted to reduce steps by taking away the need to go look up your voter ID. So we let people give us their basic information, which we use, basically these are all pieces of information that everybody knows by heart. And we use that information, taking it into our website, and on the fly, we would match them to the voter database and send them their information so we could tell them exactly what to do. And that really meant that, as we said, there's several different scenarios where people maybe have a phone number on file or they need to add a phone number. And what we would do is give them custom instructions on exactly what they needed to do to finish signing. And just as a very quick demonstration of that, so here I went through our system, I got this email. It basically says, oh, exactly what the person needs to do: take their voter ID, visit this website, the exact name that they need to use when signing, and essentially, basically you can go back to the city's website, type all of this information in, and make it very easy for people. And the key thing about this, the biggest difference, is that we make sure that no one fails. Rather than letting someone run through the process until they fail, which is a very demoralizing experience, we give people what they need to do at the given time so that they will succeed.
So we reached about half of the signatures we needed before we realized that we were going to have to go out and incorporate in-person outreach in order to hit our target number. We pretty much knew we would have to do this, but especially, learning the city's system and seeing how difficult it was, we knew that it was going to be absolutely required in order to reach our target number. But how do you collect digital signatures in person? Like we said before, our city council is conservative and they do not want this measure to be on the ballot. And so they actually made it so it was not allowed to collect both physical signatures and digital signatures for one campaign. So we chose the digital, we had to stick with it. So on our clipboards, instead of having little spaces for people to sign a petition, we put the QR code that went directly to our website where you saw that little form. People fill out 5 pieces of information about themselves, and then they get an automatic email telling them the exact instructions to finish. So that was how we got there. And then but the volunteers really, we needed the volunteers who were doing this in-person outreach to be able to tell people what their next step was going to be. Because signing our little form on our website was just the first step. They are not done signing, which was another problem. Everyone thought, oh, I'm done signing because I finished this little form. So we had to make a lot of adjustments there. But essentially we had this list, a Google sheet that would tell the volunteer in real time what the person's type code was, and then that would tell the volunteer what instructions to give the supporter on how to finish signing. So type codes, based on the fact people needed to have a phone number in their voter profile, we essentially segregated people by type code so that we could give them the exact instructions they needed in order to finish signing successfully. So a type code 1, which was the rare breed, were people who had their phone number updated in their voter profile or matched the phone number that they gave us in our form. So they are ready right away. Type code 2 means that the phone number in their voter profile is likely old, but it just doesn't match the phone number that they gave us. So had to figure that out, see if they needed to update their phone number to a more current number. Type code 3 meant that the person didn't have a phone number in the voter profile at all, so they had to add a phone number into their voter profile. And type code 4 meant that we could not find them in the voter. Either they live outside the city, or they gave us a fake name or fake year of birth, or they're just not registered to vote. So there were lots of different instances for different people to be able to finish signing, and our job as a campaign was to really help them along that process. And the other thing with in-person outreach, something that we didn't necessarily expect, but something that was a benefit, was that we could actually observe the humans in the parking lots as they were trying to finish signing. So we were able to see where there were barriers in our process and really make improvements based on the sightings of watching people go through the steps.
So yeah, we were fixing issues and being innovative at every step of the way, and still we were noticing a problem. This is a graph that we had that really illustrates the problem that we had. The orange line at the bottom is how many people were signing our petition like day over day through the course of this process. But the blue line, which is a bigger area under the curve, is the number of ballot submissions we had. And so, as we said, that on the first day, only 38% of people had signed successfully. Well, the problem was that number, that was increasing very slowly, but we needed something to get people through the process. We had all these people coming in, we were doing all this outreach, people were coming to our website, we saw them in person, but we needed to figure out how to help people finish signing quickly. And so this is kind of a similar graph showing similar data. So people, a good chunk of people could finish signing in under 5 minutes. Let's say, I don't know, let's call it 10 to 20% of people. And a lot of people finish signing in under 1 day. Let's say maybe 40% of people, after we really improved our processes. But then we had these ever-growing chunks of people who, after several days or several weeks, or even towards the end of the campaign, several months, people that were eligible to sign, but they had not completed signing. So this was a problem that we had to solve.
So we have over 1,000, right now, today, we have over 1,000 people in this list of people who are eligible to sign, but just for one reason or another, could not complete the process. Either it felt too cumbersome, or their technology skills maybe not so advanced, or they just got confused along the way because they had to update a phone number and that just seemed like a burden, or they couldn't figure it out, even though we tried to provide as good of instructions as possible. So we developed a solution called Community Guiding. It's a volunteer initiative that we created where volunteers follow up with supporters via text, email, and phone call who had started signing but hadn't finished, in order to provide the support to complete the steps needed, or to simply provide friendly nudges to complete the process. And as with all good campaigns, we wanted to gamify the system of who is getting the most signatures based on their follow-up. This leaderboard is not to brag, although I did do ups this month. But essentially, for every person that someone got to finish signing, they would get 3 points. And we would order them based on the number of points per month. And whoever were in the top of the month got some awesome prizes, aka branded gear, some fun t-shirts and other things to really just get into the spirit and the camaraderie, but also the competitive nature. People really, our team was very into the leaderboard, and I do think that part of our success in the follow-up initiative was the leaderboard. So fun times. So this success, so like we talked about earlier, we had on day one, week one, we had a 38% success rate of people completing the sign process, and through the community guiding program and other process improvements, we finished our campaign at over a 72% success rate.
So another amazing part of the online system was just how we had access to so much data about our signers compared to physical signatures. With physical signatures, you really don't get to know who people are. The signatures are used to verify, to get people on the ballot, or to get petitions on the ballot, but otherwise they're kind of just thrown in a box and never looked at. But we kind of knew in real time so much data about our folks because we were able to match them back to the voter database. And what we were seeing when we were looking at the data, trying to figure out what's going on and how can we improve, we saw that older voters were completing the signing process at a much lower rate than younger voters. There's kind of a technological barrier there, absolutely, with online type of systems. And so we made extra efforts to help older voters to get through the process. So here's Daniel, our oldest signer at the time, a couple months ago, who was born in 1927. And we were so thrilled that after he signed the petition as our oldest signer, we asked if there was anything that we could do for him. And he said he wanted a medium sausage pizza from Cosmos. And so Chelsea got that for him, and we went over and hung out with Daniel for a bit.
With the additional data, we were also able to see which areas of Boulder were underrepresented in terms of finishing signing, and we did use that information to help determine which areas of Boulder we would increase our presence at doing in-person outreach. But we also used this data, we posted it on social media, and we saw that our supporters, just like our volunteers, just like I guess all humans, are competitive and essentially it seemed like it motivated some people to sign just because they wanted greater representation in their neighborhood of Boulder.
Yeah, so as of 2 days ago, we met the minimum number of signatures needed to get on the November 2021 ballot. And we're looking forward to taking all of this technology that we built and this movement that we built into November and passing this measure. So thank you so much, Boulder.
But truly, none of this would have been possible in any way without our amazing volunteer team. More than 100 people have dedicated their time, expertise, and passion to this effort, and without them coming together and working together as a team, we would never have achieved this very amazing goal that we've set out for ourselves. So just wanted to really share how important it is to build a strong team, bring people in, and acknowledge all of their amazing work. If we didn't say it before, this is 100% a volunteer effort. We get paid nothing. This is all by choice. And really, people have dedicated a lot of time to making this possible. So yeah, resilience, hashtag resilience. When we saw that was the theme of this year's Boulder Startup Week, we were like, okay, we got this. But truly, getting to this point is just the first step. We now need to win at the ballot box in November. So we will be working very hard over the next few months to make sure that people are ready to vote in a local election. Most people don't vote in local elections. Make sure that people understand our message and why we're doing what we do. And hopefully, as of November 2021, we can have housing laws that reflect our values as a community and make it easier for a more diverse group of people to live here.
Let's see, we'll get that logo again one more time.
That one's for Devin.
Cool. Yeah. Here's just the basics about our presentation again. I want to put this back up here for just a moment, and then we can. I'll stop sharing, and then we can answer any questions that anyone has.